Bienvenidos extraños para hablar del documentario, enseñar dónde mirar los documentarios y después juntarnos y hablar acerca de ellos.
Buenos dias, ladies and gentlemen. Bienvenidos to another episode of Talkumentary. Thank you to all of our listeners and all of our friends for taking your weekly bus trip all the way across the border and joining us for this episode. I know with all of your ailing, aging bodies and your tired ears, it's becoming more and more difficult to make the trip to our humble little den. But hopefully you find plenty of reason to come back because, you know, we just like hanging out with you guys. So this week is actually the beginning of Hispanic Heritage Month. It officially starts tomorrow, which is September 15th, and runs until October 15th. This is a time to celebrate the colorful cultures, rich histories, and diversity in the American Latino community. So, to join me in our little fiesta today, we have none other than King James himself. What's up, James?
What's up?
How you doing, my friend?
All right. Ready.
Good. And some very special guests and friend of ours. These two ladies work with James and I at the museum that we work at. Ruth and her niece, Valeska
Rogel.
Rogel. I always call them Ruth and Valeska. I rarely say their last name. I had to text Ruth and go, this is going to sound weird, but what's your last name? So Rogel. Hi, Ruth.
Hi. Thank you for inviting us.
Of course. Hi, Valeska.
Hi.
Thank you guys for being with us today to talk about this documentary. Like I said, these ladies work with us at the museum. Bienvenidos, amigas. Did I say
Gracias,
that?
Jeff.
Yeah.
Y bienvenidos a todos por escuchar este nuevo episodio.
Thank you for inviting us to this episode. Is that what you said?
No. Dije a los extraños bienvenidos los invité para escuchar to listen the new episode.
Okay. Listen to a new episode.
Yes, I say in Spanish.
Yep. I love it. All right. What did we watch this week? This week, we took 71 minutes to be quiet and to reflect on a very poignant and emotional love story. We watched the meditative and poetic documentary called What We Leave Behind.
Abuelito, ¿por qué se queda aquí solo 1 o 2 días? Pues es que me gustaría verlo más.
No, ¿sabes qué? No, pues hay tiempo.
Abuelito fue un misterio para mí cuando era una niña. No sabía cómo hablar con él. ¿Qué le gustó de mi abuelita?
Pues que le hablé y me dije que sí. La primera que vino mi mamá, entonces pasaba en ahí el puente por favor, así. Y venía pues muy seguido. Y ahorita ya no. ¿Cómo le hago con esto? Hay mucha gente que le acaba la vida y ni quien lo vaya.
Pero lo visitan mucho y lo queremos mucho.
¿Quién sabe al último?
Los abuelitos ya está más decaído. Hay días que anda bien y días que pues ya tiro se decae mucho.
¿Tiene miedo?
No. Y yo sé que tiene que llegar feliz. No, yo temprano. Porque me gusta.
After a lifetime of bus rides to the United States to visit his children, Julián Moreno quietly starts building a house on an empty lot next to his home in rural Mexico. His granddaughter, Ileana Sosa, films his work and creates a personal and poetic love letter to him and his homeland through this beautiful film. This was directed by Ileana Sosa, written by Ileana Sosa and Isidore Bethel, produced by Ileana Sosa, Isidore Bethel, Katie Drake Bettner, and Fariha Zaman. This film was an Array, Border Child, Marcona Media production in association with Just Films Ford Foundation. Distributed by and streamed on Netflix, What We Leave Behind has 100% tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes.
Wow.
With 9 reviews and a 94% audience score with fewer than 50 ratings. I could not find a negative review. Normally, the last couple episodes, I try to find a good review and a negative review to tell people about, but there really wasn't anything below like 8 or 9 stars for this one. But here's a couple good ones that I found. One of the 9 out of 10 star reviews from Sylvia Valdez says, "This movie was so simple. However, it captured something I can relate to when going to Mexico with my abuelos. To me, it captured something in their faces without them saying much. Her tío George's expression, the sadness on his face had me crying. I wondered why he is so sad. What is he thinking?" And then another review from the New York Times by Lisa Kennedy says, "What we leave behind insists upon the power of stillness and the poignancy in staying and leaving." So anyway, we're going to have all that credit information in the show notes. Let's get into this. A quick warning before we get into this. If you have not seen it and you want to see it, go check it out. This is your spoiler alert. Go watch it, come back, and we will continue the conversation.
Right on.
Is anyone still listening?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, good. Let's talk about why we chose to watch What We Leave Behind. So I chose this one specifically to celebrate the start of Hispanic Heritage Month, which starts in a couple days from when this recording comes out. And it just seemed like the perfect film from what I could see to sort of highlight some of the important aspects of Hispanic culture and the culture of immigrants around the country, around the world. It really showed the value of hard work, the importance of family, and it was a very quiet and accepting nature of this man and his family. You do what you got to do and you don't complain attitude. And that's a lot of the Hispanic people that I've worked with. That's very ingrained. And Ruth, Valeska, you guys tell me if I'm wrong here, but that's very ingrained into that culture. Family is everything. And and you don't go anywhere without hard work. Do you agree? Is that kind of...
Yes, I agree with that.
Yeah. Do you see that in your own family?
Yes, I said, and that what it will leave behind is mostly about my personal life. I came in this country when I was 23 years, and like when I'm here, I miss my country there. When I was there, I miss this life over here.
Right. Wow.
So,
yep. And you guys, you live with, at least part of the time, with some of your family where, you know, and that's, correct me if I'm wrong, but that's kind of a big part of your culture, is making sure that your family is not left. You know, there's a lot of American, you know, born and raised. It's sort of like, and we'll get into this a little bit maybe as we continue into the episode, but you sort of, it's not as quote unquote normal for an American family to take their aging parents or grandparents into their home and live with them until the end, you know, but I know for a fact, just because I know you've got that going on in your home right now.
yes.
And that's not unusual in your culture, correct?
No.
Yeah.
It's how we grow up. We have to get our parents or grandparents. It's how we try to show her to care of her grandma, like my mom right now.
Yep.
And when my sister and I, we get old, so she knows how she need to, you know, care of us.
Valeska. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yep.
even we talk to her, another thing.
Yeah.
But
Had you seen this documentary or heard of it before we talked
No.
about it? No? Mm-mm. How about you, James?
No.
No?
I have not. I have to agree with Ruth here. Ruth, same way in our culture, as you want to call it, you never, your parents, your grandparents, my grandmother stayed with my aunt. She was 99 years old. She stayed all the way up to a point where they couldn't do anything. That's when they had to send her to like the home to get
It becomes too much for even the family to take care of. And I know, you know, as our family gets older and they become harder to take care of and all that. I mean, Ruth, and Valeska, you guys are learning how to do medical cares.
A lot,
you
a
know,
lot.
which is crazy.
That's good.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, my sister and I, we get so crazy when the doctors tell us they don't have a recovery center here
Yeah.
for my mom because she got the feeding tube and she has a trach.
Yep.
And my sister and I were so scared because we live with her and my other siblings, they have to live their lives, and we understand that, you know.
Yeah.
But my sister and I was like, okay, how are we gonna do that when we don't have a nurse 7 days, 24?
Well, then you learn, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we learn, and now it's easy peasy.
Yeah. Now you'd almost rather do it because I know how to do it, and I know my mom, and I'd rather be the one giving her the care and all of that. So, and it sounds like, James, with what you were saying, when I say American culture, I'm just saying white American culture, where it's less, it's more unusual for, you know, for us to have our family with us until they're old and gone, you know, which is kind of sad, to be honest with you.
It is sad. It's very sad because I get on my person, you know that, since March to April, we went like 51 days at the hospital. We went over there with my mom day and nights, and I don't miss any day even.
Right.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But my thing to tell to everyone is, listen, that episode, they need to care their parents.
Yeah.
What I learned with my mom, the doctors told us, if my mom is getting well, it's because she's at home. If we get her to the recovery center,
She's
maybe
gonna start going downhill.
She'll be down right now.
Yeah.
Because her family isn't around. They like it when we care about them.
Yep.
Right.
You know.
Well, it gives them reason to hang on and to keep fighting.
My mom has the dementia and forever, but now since the doctor says since 2014, the dementias don't go.
It's not getting worse.
No.
Wow.
Why? Because the doctors say we try to give to her the life she has in our country. Why? We take her everywhere with us to work, to the gym, to swim, go to the restaurants with her, go to shopping.
Yeah, it's not an afterthought. It's not a burden as much as it is. You're still part of our family, and you're still very much being involved in what we're doing.
Yes, and when the kids, they're going to leave their parents to those home cares or recovery centers, or they leave their parents over there. It's the reason their parents, they lose their dementia like fast. They you know, they don't recognize their family anymore.
Right.
I work with Jeff. Jeff was my boss. He still is.
No,
he's my friend.
Thank you.
But we worked at another job where we actually worked in homes where a lot of older people stayed, and we see that how sad they are when there's no family around. But when the family comes around, it kind of brightens their day.
Yep.
And it's just like this movie, the guy was excited all while his family was there.
Yep.
You know, and that was just one of his main things, I think, was his family.
Absolutely.
And that's the only reason why. Because if we didn't have that, I think he would have still just stayed in America.
Yep.
You know, but...
So we haven't even gotten into the documentary yet, which is great. What were your... Valeska, you were excited to watch this when we asked you, and I know that based on talking to you a little bit before this. So for all of our listeners, you are you're the next generation. So you're younger than any of us here. You are 13?
Yeah.
13, yep. Did you have any predictions about this one before you actually watched it? And like, what did you think this was going to be about?
Well, when I thought that it was going to be what's his name?
Julián. Yeah.
How his life was in Mexico, and it kind of gave me thoughts about how my aunt's life and my grandma's life was in Mexico, and it kind of gave me like a
perspective.
Yeah. Of how it was for them, and how like it is over there, and how hard they have to work.
Because you were 1 year old when your mom and aunt came to, or tia, mama and tia, right? Is that mother and aunt?
Yeah.
Right. When they came to the United States. Is that correct?
No.
We get here like 10 years before she born. She born in
okay.
Arkansas. So just from here, yes.
Okay, so you were born in the United States.
Yes.
Okay, so you have no experience of how. Have you ever been to Mexico?
No.
No.
Never.
So you just hear stories and probably see pictures and things like that, I would imagine. So what you're saying is that this was a kind of an interesting look into what life is like for someone who goes back and forth.
Yeah.
Was there anything, and this is open to the whole group, was there anything that surprised you about this as far as like what your predictions were about the documentary and what it ended up being? Was there any surprises? Go ahead, James.
I was surprised because I didn't think things were going to end like they ended. You know, I thought that his house was going to get built. Then his family was going to, I'm not going to tell the end yet, but I guess I did kind of.
No,
but
that's all right.
His family, I thought that they were all going to like do a celebration after they built his house.
Right.
And
He was building a house for one of his kids.
Right.
He wanna leave when he say when he's passed away, he wanna leave a house for each kid, and the house he was building on the end was for the blind kid.
Right.
Because he was so worried for him.
Right. Yeah, and he even mentioned, like, I don't know who this is specifically for. I just know that I want my kids to come and divvy it up. If they want to sell it, fine. I'm just building it because I want to have something to leave behind. At least that's how I heard it.
Yes, that one he say, because he say that all the kids he has in this country
Went to the United States.
anytime they want to go back, so they have a place to stay.
Right. Yep. Which is huge. I mean, that's him in his final years trying to set up his family to have something nice. And, to me, that's pretty touching. And he's struggling to do the work but he's still making sure it gets done. For me, I expected, so when I read the description of the documentary, I thought it was going to show more of him going back and forth, but instead we picked up on his final trip back to Mexico. Yeah. So he's been doing these trips back and forth on a bus every month for over 15 years. Every month he was going to El Paso, Texas, from Durango, I think. Durango. Thank you. Mexico, to visit his kids. And he says he would only go up there for like a day.
Oh, 2 days.
Yeah, a couple days. And just come and say hello and sit there for a little while and then turn around and go back to Mexico. And
go back to U.S.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, how do I say, when you have a lot of years living out of your country and you go back to your country, you don't feel comfortable over there anymore. Like when you were kids, like when you have your family there.
Yeah.
You don't feel comfortable and you want to come back right away. But you come back right away and you want to go back over there.
Right.
I don't know how to explain that.
Yeah.
But it's how do we feel.
Yeah.
He did say something like, I don't know, he's talking about himself. He went over there when he was young and got sick.
Yeah.
And they had to come back to the United States to get well. And then his mother told him, you'll never be able to survive over there.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
Yep.
That's another thing that's true. That happened to me. When I get here, I get sick like crazy.
Just the difference in probably the food and the water,
the weather,
the air. Yeah.
I don't know. Now I'm afraid to go over there because what if
sick?
If I get sick?
Yeah. Wow. So we'll get into some more details about what we leave behind. I want to give, normally I give a quick synopsis of the documentary for those of you who maybe didn't watch it, or just as a recap for some of you who may have watched it a little while ago. At the age of 89, Julián takes one last bus ride to El Paso, Texas to visit his daughters and their children, a lengthy trip he has made without fail every month for decades. After returning to rural Mexico, he quietly starts building a house in the empty lot next to his home. In the absence of his physical visits, can this new house bridge the distance between his loved ones? Over several years, director Ileana Sosa films her grandfather's work, gently sifting through Julián's previously unspoken memories brought up by the construction projects and revealing both the daily pragmatism and poetry of his life. What we leave behind unfolds as a love letter to her grandfather, as well as an intimate and insightful exploration of Ileana's own relationship with him and his homeland. What did you guys overall think of this documentary? Did you like it? Valeska?
I loved it.
You loved it?
Yeah.
Ruth, overall, was this one that you...
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's how we live over there in our country. That are like everything. How do we build the houses? We don't have the big machines like you guys have over here. They do it by their own hands.
Yep.
And they don't have like architects like we
Yeah.
do here.
You're stacking bricks and putting them together, which is, you know, their house looked more like what this basement looks like with stacked cinder blocks and whatnot, but it was still beautiful. It was still well built and, you know, in some ways probably more rewarding because it's by the labor of your own sweat and blood, you know? So yeah, I thought that was pretty cool. James, what about you, man?
I really liked it because the stuff that they were doing over doing over there in Mexico is stuff that I grew up doing. I grew up separating the beans. My mother taught us the big old pot, separating the beans, the bad from the good.
Yeah.
Snapping peas, chickens. We had chickens in Omaha. We had chickens and stuff, and we had wild duck. We ate squirrel. We ate rabbit. We killed and cut and cleaned our own food and everything. It kind of like brought back childhood memories.
Yeah, I have a lot of memories. Like he says, separating beans because every morning my mom sent us to do that for the beans every morning, like every day we have to do that.
What are you separating?
Oh, because
Bad ones and good ones?
no, yeah, sometimes the breakers, my mom says, those are broken, throw away.
Yep.
But sometimes the beans have rocks, small rocks.
The little rocks and stuff.
And small like vines.
Yeah.
The beans those are dry, so you have to pull it out.
And it's also a time where I didn't look at it then, but I look at it now because I'm older. Like when they were snapping peas. Snapping peas.
Why they separate?
My sisters, my aunts, they all were doing it together. But as they were doing it together, they were all talking together. It's
bonding.
Building.
Yes.
Building more family, building more relationships, with each other. So everybody kind of was comfortable. We knew each other.
Yeah.
I mean, I could drink your pop. I could pass one can of pop around to like 10 people, and then to get back to me, there better be something there for me. There was no like,
Yeah.
it was like, yeah, hell, get back there.
It was bonding.
Yep, that's what it was.
Another thing that bring me in my memories was when the guy went to take a shower, and you guys saw he put the hood and the thing to get warm.
Yeah.
We don't have gas over there.
Yeah.
So we have the same in my house, so we have to put hood in it and we touch it.
Yeah,
if it does warm, okay, we have got to take a shower because the water is ready.
Right.
Oh, that's
I don't know how that works, but the water
stayed hot.
stay hot and longer.
Better than a water heater.
And right here, the water things is like metal.
Yeah.
No, the water thing over there is like
concrete.
like concrete.
Yeah.
And it's cold, the water.
Yeah.
And I never understand how did that get warm
Yeah.
and come to the shower warm. And I tell Malu, come over here. What? And I say, look at, they have the same like we have.
That's your sister, yeah?
Yes.
Yep. So for me, I asked you guys the question, did you like this documentary? And I really enjoyed this as well. But I didn't at first. When I started to watch this, it moves very slowly. There is a lot of silence. There's a lot of, just holding the camera on one image or one person and nothing's really happening, or they're doing something very kind of, just repetitive or something like that. And for the first, little bit of the movie, I was actually a little bit bored because it hadn't drawn me in yet. And I don't think that, coming from where I come from and not having the same experiences as you guys, maybe it didn't grab me as quickly as it probably did for you, Ruth. And, but eventually as I started,
I understand what you say was too slow,
yeah,
but
I think it needed it.
I understand.
Me too.
I understand them because the guy was getting old,
Yep.
so he needs time,
Yep.
to think and answer. So it
Agreed. And
was boring, but
no, but my point is, by the end, I understood it. To me, at that, as it continued to go, I started to appreciate the quiet, and I started to like the way that it was filmed. It was more of a poem and less of an action movie. It wasn't intended to be bright and flashy and loud, where it would have really, I think, watered down or made the story not as interesting if it had a lot of music and a lot of narration and a lot of movement and flashy lights. I just think it would have done it
more real.
More real.
I can say that most real, like the life how he is over there, and I feel it that more real, like you say, no more too many cameras over here, actors, and what's the real life.
I think that guy, I admire that Julian guy, because the guy was a hard worker. Even though he was that age, he was still throwing that. He was telling Jeff he was throwing that. He had a shovel, throwing the dirt. He said he's not afraid of hard work. What is it? Travato duro. He's not afraid of that. And when I was younger, I used to be just like him. I wouldn't even eat lunch. I would work to sun up to sundown. Sun up to sundown, because that's what we knew to do. Don't be afraid of it. Just do it.
This is another good thing over there from our country. Like, no matter how old people is, they keep doing what they love to do.
Right.
Like they don't stop like here
and sitting and not helping and things like that just aren't an option.
Right.
Do you feel, Valeska, like you are shown that in your family and because you were born and raised in the United States, a notoriously lazy country, right?
Yeah.
Where we, want to do the least amount of work and get the most payback for it, right? That's the American dream, right? That's right. in a lot of ways. And I feel like my generation and before and after, it kind of ebbs and flows, and it depends on how you're raised. But do you feel like because of the family that you are in and that you are being raised in, do you appreciate that hard work, that work ethic? Or do you feel that? Or do you feel like you're kind of, I don't know, I'm not trying to set you up to give an answer that you don't want to admit to, but is that a big part of your life? Do you see your peers wanting a lot for nothing, where you're 13 years old and I see you helping out at the museum all the time, right? We don't have a lot of that, where your peers aren't going to work. They're not offering to help in those ways. Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, I feel like it's how their parents and the people that are around them teach them what to do. Like my aunt and mom, they tell me to work hard for what I want. And the other kids, their parents they work, or they just don't tell them to work hard for what they want and need. And they just rely on other people to do that, and they just... Yeah.
Is that ever frustrating to you to see your friends that way? Or do you ever feel like, are you ever frustrated with and you don't have to tell your aunt this, but are you ever frustrated with your family going, my friends get everything that, they want and they don't have to work for it? Is it ever like a point of frustration for you?
Not to this age, no. But when I was younger, kind of.
Okay.
But now I see that if I work hard, I can get the things I want.
Yeah.
And I get money, and I can use that to get stuff I need.
Yeah.
And
would you say you appreciate it more because of that work that you put in for it?
Yeah, I appreciate how they taught me to work hard.
Yeah.
And to not give up on what I want to achieve.
Yeah.
Right.
And that speaks highly of Ruth and Marilu, your mother.
No, I
also go through her school too.
Yeah.
Yes.
This my girl right here.
Yeah.
And she get to school and I get to hear about her work that she does. and stuff.
I feel so awful right now with her. So I'm sorry if I cry.
No, you can. This is a safe space. You can. Emotions are welcome here.
I promised her we go this summer for vacation. But what happened with my mom right now? And we have her all those months use hospitals back at home, sleep on the hospital, and she's too young. And I wish we can give her different life. And I talk to her all the time. I'm sorry because we give her that life. I wish maybe like she can have a friends or her friends went to vacation on summer. We don't take her anywhere. Like you guys say, we are working. And sometimes I feel awful. Like sometimes I say, Valeska, you go with me. And if you know, you can stay. I don't care. But she say, no, I'm coming. She's like that all the time.
Yep. Well, and that speaks highly of both Valeska and the family that she comes from. And also I can say that these types of bonds and these memories and things like that, that's much more important than the family vacation. Those are the things that
thank you.
That
you make me feel better.
Well, it should, because when Valeska continues to get older and goes off into do her world and continues being a part of yours, those are the things that she takes with her, that work ethic, that that we have to take care of our own. And not just say, we all love vacations, right? It would be real nice to go away and see the world and do the things and all that. But not all of us can do that. And
yes,
we have to take care, we take care of our own and we take care of ourselves and all that. But you're teaching lessons that are more important than any vacation. So I don't mean to speak for Valeska there, but I know that is a good thing.
Yeah, but sometimes she's quiet and sometimes like that's good you ask for her because she don't tell us how she feel.
Why not?
I don't know.
Should we get into that?
No.
Valeska's a good girl. She's a good girl. I like the values that is placed in her from you guys.
I feel like going to the museum is better than just staying at home doing nothing on the phone, just being there. And being at the museum, I get to see different people every day.
You get to see me. Of course, King James.
Hang out with
I
King
get to
James.
bond with King James.
There you go.
And everyone at the museum.
Yeah, well, we love having you guys around.
Yes, we do.
I'm going to bring us back to the documentary. In the director's statement, Ileana Sosa talks about her grandfather, and he remembers as he remembers his monthly trips from Mexico, he would only, so this is what she said, he would only visit for one day sometimes. He would bring treats like llamancillo.
Llamancillo?
Do you know what that is? No?
No.
Chile, and then Mexican candies.
Tamarindo.
No, it says Jamoncillo.
Es jamoncillo.
Okay.
Jamoncillo.
What is that? Do you know?
Jamoncillo is like ham.
Oh.
But sometimes they have in candies too.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. And another thing, that's good you bring that point over there, because I don't know here, but in our country, our parents, they like, you have to do that, you have to do that, and don't move and don't play. But when they have their grandkids,
they spoil them.
Yes.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
I think that's all the way around. That's all the way around.
Yeah, you're strict on your own kids, but then your grandkids get spoiled.
Like that say over there.
Remember one thing.
They don't give you any candies, but they bring candies or
For the
high
grandkids.
candies for their
grandkids.
Yes, for the grandkids. Really?
You gotta remember one thing. If you don't raise your kids. You will be raising your grandkids.
Yeah.
I just threw that in there, because that's how I say things sometimes,
Okay.
So she says he travels, he brings some treats for them. He would always smell like earth, and his hands were weathered and worn. And we did see one scene where they focused on his hands. He had his hands open, and they zoomed in on his hands, and they were very calloused, very rough. There was a fly sitting on his hands, which kind of bothered me a little bit. But, because he worked the land his entire life until he could barely move. I mean, he didn't stop. We saw him scooping gravel, as James was talking about. He was carrying planks. But as we watch, he continues to get more and more tired. So he traveled back to the U.S. every month for just a day, and then he'd head home. He talked about wanting to do that in order to keep his family together. So he had 7 kids, all of whom, except for one, George, who was blind and he needed some help, all of whom had immigrated to the United States. Why? What do you guys think when he goes back for just a day and then comes back to Mexico? Why? Why is he going every month for just 1 or 2 days?
I think it's that family thing that he's been talking about throughout the whole documentaries. Family is everything to him. Now that you're getting to that point of age where, you think about it, everything that we got today is just material. When you die, you don't ask to get my brand new car. You don't ask to get my suit or anything like that. You ask, where's my family? Where's the people I love? You want that around you more than anything. So I think that became like a major part of him wanting to go back. But he also loved Mexico.
And again, I think he go back only for 1 or 2 days is because his son was blind again.
Yeah.
And
George,
he was worried for him. So no matter what, how many times he go back only to see him, he's fine. Okay, he's fine. So I'll go back. I'll be back in a month.
Yeah.
Also, in the beginning, it's sad. It said that in the U.S., he was just on the couch doing nothing, and
bored.
He was bored, and he wondered why was he there when he could be in Mexico with his family and
working. Yeah. That's an interesting point, and I do think George plays a huge part in his story, because you have one son who cannot function on his own, or at least is struggling to do that. So, and because he's blind, he's legally blind. I think he had some vision, but not much. So he couldn't really do much without help. Yeah. So that was a huge part of the story, because a lot of what drove Julián, he was his worry, I guess, for his son. And George didn't really say this. He didn't really say much throughout the whole thing.
Yeah.
But you could kind of tell, James, you like to analyze people's body language and their face, their emotions and things like that. But do you think there was any guilt there on George's part about needing his father's help there? Or do you think that he felt bad about that ever?
I don't see that.
I didn't see it neither.
No?
His body language he was happy that his dad was there.
Yes.
And even though he's
both.
Right.
Be honest, I don't notice he was blind.
Mm-hmm.
Right. I didn't either.
I don't notice he was blind until he get the packet getting water.
Yep.
And he started like that. And, and I said,
they put his hands to feel everything to walk. Because everything was natural around him, so he knew his paces and steps. Mm-hmm. But at the beginning, like when Jeff was saying, he was just standing there like, what is this about?
Yeah.
Why is he just standing there for like a good 5 minutes?
They sat there on him for like what felt like forever. They were showing him in the camera holding a broom, and he was just looking, just standing there. I'm going, what is happening?
Right.
It turns out he's just listening.
but before that,
he was listening to see what would happen.
Yeah.
That's cool.
the niece, Ileana, talked with George about his mom, when he, how did he feel when his mom died, how his mom was. And
I can't remember her face.
George,
yeah.
Exactly. He was like that, and he never, like, nobody noticed at that moment he was blind.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that made me sad because he say his mom died when He was 14 years old.
Yep.
Right.
And nobody knows what is the
What she had.
and how she has why.
Right. He said he maybe it was cancer. You know, they talked about at one point, like her death, they found prickly pear needles in her bed and her stomach was extended, but they never went any further into that. I was really curious about what
Her nose was bleeding.
Yeah, and her nose was bleeding by the tree while she was crocheting. I wonder what all that was. I mean, that's a little curious, but
Yes.
so the scenes where George and Julián were together was super sad. It was also really sweet because, but you also, I mean, you could write a sitcom or something about that. You know, the blind man and the old man.
And the old man,
both
yes.
need a cane. They both need each other. You know, and you know you show them walking around and all that. To me, that's like that's a fairy tale. Like that's a story. That's something you could write. You know, a novel about, just about the complexities. It's kind of like the blind man and the deaf man having to lead each other around, you know, in a way.
Tandem, because I know you handed him a
Both
can of beer.
they try to work together.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And they're building houses.
Right.
Like what?
that's amazing.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to the water thing, and George was feeling the water.
Yep.
And he's yelling. He said, "The phone is raining." And
Yep.
Julián go run and answer
Yep.
the phone, and then I don't know what he's saying.
Yep.
George need go to the answer and go to get out the hose and
Turn
put
off
it-
the water. Yeah.
Yeah, and I say,
They work together in tandem.
Yep. They're
One thing. That's one thing about the body language. At the end of it, his son, you can see it all on his face. He didn't say anything. He got up. His walk was a little off, like sadness.
Yeah.
His face, if you can cry tears, you would have cried tears then, because his face was super sad. And he just casually just walked on out. You know, just walked on out. And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
That spoke some volumes right there to me.
Yep.
I would have felt the same way, but I would have had some tears over now. Because to be there all day, every day with your dad, like I said, even opening, he's blind, but his dad handed him a can of beer. He opened it, he popped the lid for him,
Yep.
and handed it right back to him.
And then they got
know.
some lime and put it in
You
there.
got the lime, they're talking about the lime and stuff, you know, all that stuff together.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, everybody knows what's going to happen.
Yep.
And I seen it. And then when I saw the breathing, and
Oh.
man, I see this at the job.
Yeah. Let's hold off on that a little bit because I want to get it to a few things before we get into the
and then
Julián's final
sorry about
final
that.
hours. That's all right. So kind of back to Ileana's grandmother, Julián's late wife. She died when George was only 14. As we said, they never really explained exactly how she died, but Julián never remarried, and he was fairly young.
yeah,
When-
45 years
Yeah,
old
when-
he was a widow.
Yeah.
And yeah,
And, you know, all the kids eventually immigrated to the U.S. except for George. And in one scene, they did go to the cemetery to visit her grave.
oh, that's I have in my notes. What
Yeah.
are in my notes?
So, I want to talk to you, Ruth, about that. But, you know, so just so everyone knows what scene we're talking about, they went to the gravesite and they're kind of sweeping up and cleaning up. And they spent some time putting together some decorations and taking it there. And there was a lot of families at that cemetery.
That's here is in Halloween,
Okay.
but over there in Mexico is el Día de Muertos.
Right. Okay. That's what I was going to ask you
Yes,
about.
that's like if you see those special, like Julián have a bunch of yellow flowers.
Yeah.
That's for that special day.
Okay.
The Día de Muertos.
Dia de Muertos.
You know,
And that's,
and it's
Valeska, you want to say something? Go ahead.
I saw that the daughter was making like something to put on the gravestone,
Yeah.
and how Julián and the girl, they were on the trunk, and how they carried the flowers and how they cleaned the gravestone for them and made them look all nice and
Right.
decorated.
Yeah, it was really nice. And so, Dia de Muertos, that Day of the Dead, It's just a way to honor those who have passed, correct?
Yes.
Hispanic, or is it Hispanic or just Mexican culture? Is it in like
all Mexico?
Okay, Mexican,
all Mexico, like
Mexican
everywhere.
And is that more of a is it just a way to honor the dead? Is it a year-long thing? I know there's a lot of religious stuff that goes into that typically a Mexican culture is, and you correct me when I'm wrong, because clearly I'm not Mexican, but you are. So you tell me if I'm getting something wrong. But there's a lot of like Catholicism, like Catholics, and then belief that the way we treat the living will affect the way that, and correct me when I'm wrong, will affect the way that their next life is. Is that correct?
Yes.
So talk to me about Dia de Muertos and what that means and why that was important in this documentary.
Well, like I told you, the Dia de Muertos is like here Halloween and October 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Over there we have October 31st is for the kids in Mexico, Dia de Muertos, for the babies.
Okay.
You know?
Yep.
November 1st is for the adults.
Okay, so and that's Dia de Muertos?
That's Dia de Muertos for adults. But November 2nd is for everyone. So maybe a week before the Dia de Muertos, everyone's go to the cemetery and clean it all their relatives, stones, or some they don't have stones. Right. Why? Because all those stones are very expensive.
Yeah.
You know, so some don't have, and they have grass all everywhere, but the families come over and clean it up, all of it, because all those need to be have flowers, and the principal thing, they need to have a candle.
Okay.
The candle, my mom, she's alive still, thanks God.
Yeah.
But all people in our town, they say you need to put a candle for each one relative you is late. Why? Because on the November 2nd, all our relatives, they come over and they are praying around the cemetery, but they have their light. If you don't put a candle for them, so they are crying because you forget them. That, like, it's a tradition. Okay. It's like no, you say really religion. Cool.
Sure.
That's too on it. You know, like we raise like that.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you for sharing. So to you, it wasn't surprising at all to see them, and a lot of people, you know, I've been to cemeteries to visit my family who's passed, but my culture just hasn't put as much weight on, you know, visiting that. You know, it's kind of and I don't like this. I feel like it is a little dismissive of the memory of a person. To go to a cemetery with that many people at other graves and whatnot, it's just not something that happens very often in American culture. And, you know, to me, it's kind of nice seeing the kids and the teenagers and the adults all there cleaning up. You know, if we all felt that way, our cemeteries probably would look a lot nicer. Unless, you know, I know that a lot of ours have people that are paid to be there to take care of it, but also it just shows a lot closer of a familial
for the familia, yes,
bond. And, you know, we just don't have that. And to me, it's really refreshing to see that in this documentary and to hear you guys talk about that, you know, in other Mexican and Hispanic families that I know, that how close their family bond is. To me, that's really refreshing, and it's enviable. It gives me something to work toward in my family, to want to create those types of bonds. So I really appreciate that. And James, I know that your family's very close too. So it's not just, obviously a close family is not just a Hispanic thing, but, you know, it is something that is very prevalent. And we saw that in this documentary.
And another thing, when you raise like that, like me, all the time I try to call my sister in Mexico and ask her about my dad. Hey, you went to clean it. Hey, you leave flowers. And over there, and there, every every family have a cross with the name on it. Like we saw the Julián wife have the name, when she born and when she died, everything. But over there in my town, they have that stone with that information. But the people don't have the stone. They have a cross with the stone is on the earth, but have all that information. And all the time I ask my sister, my dad have the stone, but I still have the cross too. But all the time I tell my sister, go to get a scarf, but it isn't a scarf. Maybe a scarf for the cross.
Yeah.
But there's it's like a special material.
Okay.
It's made for the cross, to put it under the cross.
Like silk or something like that?
Something like silk, and those crosses on the ends, have angels or flowers.
Yeah.
But what happened with the rain, with the sun, all those get old.
Yeah, they start to wear out.
Yes. Yeah. So I call my sister and say, go to check it. Another one, and for my grandparents to get another one.
Yep. Yeah, that's really cool. I mean, that just shows a lot of respect and memory for people that are no longer with us, and the impact that they had on our lives. And I just think that's really cool. And I love traditional stuff like that. It's really neat. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah, I talked with my mom yesterday because she wanna go to bury in Mexico. But,
she does.
Yeah. And I talked to her yesterday, and I say, you need to change your mind, because if you go to Mexico, we don't be over there. We have our lives here.
Yeah.
So, and I say,
we want to be able to visit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I said, I don't want to be like my dad is over there.
Yeah. And that's hard.
And it's hard. Yeah. And I say, and now you go over there? No. And I said, you have to be over here. And he say, okay, I'm going to.
She'll think about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
because
that's good.
It's very hard.
Yeah, I'll bet. I imagine for her, it's hard to say, where do I want to be buried, and where, that's my homeland, but this has become my home. And, I'm sure that's a difficult decision.
And we care of her all those years. And I say, come on.
Yeah.
Please.
Please don't make me go there to visit. Yeah.
If I'm go over there, I'll be like Julián.
Yeah. Going back and forth.
Back and forth. And I'll be stay 1, 2, 3 days, and I have to come back to work.
Right. You have to. Yeah. It kind of off topic a little bit, but back on the documentary. One interesting thing that I found about this documentary was something that they just barely skimmed over in the actual film. So when I was reading the director's statements, the Ileana, the filmmaker, the original intention of this film was to explore Julián's work as a bracero, which in Spanish, I believe, means one who works with his hands or his arms. Something like that. That's at least what she said. So bracero, bring awareness to a period in U.S. history that many Americans, including myself, did not know about. Are you familiar with the bracero thing at all, Ruth?
Yes.
Yeah.
My dad was one of those.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. My dad was one of those, the same like Julián. He lose.
Yeah. So I'm going to explain a little bit about what that is. So braceros were agricultural and farm workers brought to the United States from Mexico during labor shortages during World War II. So basically, American soldiers were going off to war, and nobody was taking care of our farms. So in true, American fashion, what we did was we went and grabbed people from other countries, Mexicans, and put them to work doing manual labor. Well, again, in true disgusting American fashion, they were exploited. They were basically forcefully made to do this labor. And then
with any benefits.
Without any benefits,
Yes.
correct. They were forcefully and then sent back to Mexico. Once they were brought into the United States, they were barely paid. They were barely given any benefits. Julián actually talked about it a little bit, about how he had to use his brother-in-law's name because he didn't have the right, forms or whatever it was. And then,
Again, because they come over, sorry, I interrupt
no,
you.
go. Yeah.
But like I told you, was my dad the same like Julián?
Yeah.
I don't know who brought them. My dad, all the time, he was fighting for the money. And I think he passed away and he never get the money.
Oh.
Why? Because it happened the same like Julián. They took him from there and he was on the list.
Right.
But when he get here, they don't give to him
Anything to prove.
ID
Yeah.
or anything.
Yeah.
And he was back and forth.
Yeah, so basically, Americans come back, xenophobia, being afraid of, what would be called, Mexicans coming and quote unquote stealing our jobs now that we're back home, right? And just straight up racism as well. That starts to escalate. The program the Bracero program lasted from the early 40s to about 1964, which basically gave 20-something years of cheap labor from Mexico to the United States. And the United States never really had to pay for it. But that's also, that's another, James, our first documentary that we covered for this show was called 13th. And it focused on the mistreatment of Black Americans, early on in American history. Right. And and part of what we talked about was how we as Americans aren't told these stories. We have to watch documentaries and be told and dig this stuff up. Right. And it's a disgusting part of our history that we don't know about unless we go out and educate ourselves on that or are educated on that. This is another one of those things I didn't know exist. They don't write this in our history books. My guess is that, Valeska, when you're going through middle school and then into high school, none of your history books here in America are going to talk about the Braceros. And if they do, it's going to be a very small piece, right? And it's not going to probably tell you have to learn that. I have to learn that at 38 years old. I'm having to learn that through this. And, this is part of all of our history. It's not a proud part of my history, but it's part of it. It's part of the story. And, so that's great. We hear about things that we did that were awful that are just getting whitewashed and taken out of the history books or not ever put in there. But that was mind-blowing to me, and they've barely skimmed it in this documentary. But the funny thing is the director said that was the original intention of this documentary, was to bring attention to that. So clearly that changed because as she started going,
yes,
she's changed
changed the history about them.
Right.
Because that's right. Like if you don't invite me for watch that documentary, right, I never talk about that, the Braceros. Right. And I was with my dad over there, and my dad spent a lot of time to go to the Mexico City one time or two times a week, all the time, with all his papers from here. And he was a lot of guys from my town, from my small town in Mexico. They go together, and I think they die and they don't get any money.
That's not right. Valeska, have you ever heard of this?
Never.
No?
Me neither.
Yeah. Is this your first kind of time hearing about it there, James?
Yeah, it's my first time hearing about that.
But again, like, I don't know, nobody explained them, or like you say, they only using them because they asked my dad for different papers. Bring this next week. Bring that one. I remember that because like if you see the furniture they don't have closets for you saw in the movie or the documentary. The furniture they have we call roperos to to put all clothes on it.
Yeah.
So they have a small...
Kind of like a big dresser or a big wardrobe or something like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I remember my parents, they have one in their room, and they have one like that door, and that one have a mirror.
Yeah.
But in that square thing,
Just a couple feet.
yes,
big,
just
yeah.
a couple feet, but they have all the important papers over there.
Okay.
You know, all the houses, the cars, the important papers. So my dad, I have as my sister Malu and I, we were the youngers, the whole family, looking for all the papers. And what did that say? My dad, of course, you know, like he was getting old and he don't read well, and we're reading for him. And I said, what is that? No, keep doing.
Yeah.
And I need that one. Let's to take a copy. And next week again. And I don't think they give to him or give to them for all that.
I think it was a pretty blatant exploitation of that labor. I don't think very many. From what I could, I mean, obviously, I don't know everything.
You
about
see,
it,
like you guys don't know about it,
right? Yeah, it's a problem.
Because it is in a history, and who's the braceros?
Right.
Nobody knows, but like I told you, I know because my dad.
Your dad was one, yeah. Wow, that's really interesting, and it's sad. I mean, ultimately, it's sad. So I'm going to lighten it up just a little bit,
Right.
James.
Yep.
Besides the fact that you're over there falling asleep,
What I was just doing my beer, listening casually.
yeah. What was your favorite part of this documentary,
My favorite part was,
and why was it Pinto the dog?
Yeah, I'm about to say, Pinto the dog.
Pinto the dog.
I like
What a
that dog.
cute dog. He had a big like bullseye dot on the side.
beautiful.
It was a
Pinto the
beautiful
dog, the same name as we would call the horse. You know, I just found that funny. You know, and I was telling them that some of the Native American names are similar to some of the Hispanic names. You know,
Yeah.
and I guess a lot of, you could say Native must have crossed over sometime in between.
Oh yeah.
But
There's a lot of similarities in that culture.
that. But my part was the dog, because the dog was, when the man was laying in the bed and the dog was laying out on the side. And you know, I say the dog is a man's best friend.
Yeah.
When the man was in his truck and they was
Yes,
going to get
it's
the
foul.
wood,
It's
Yeah.
running.
he was
Yeah.
running around
He's
alone. They
running.
kept telling him, go back. You know, he wouldn't go back. And
Yeah.
then
And he get to the cemetery with them.
Yep. He did everything.
Yeah. There was very few scenes in that film that Pinto wasn't
That he wasn't
in it.
Yeah.
The dog was always there.
His
Which was really cool.
He drank out the water out the
Because-
bucket.
Yeah.
He didn't get no
I
beer,
was
though.
talking with my cousin because my cousin, she said she's watched that, saw that before,
Yeah.
and she said you're gonna cry and blah blah blah. So, but I was talking with her today at work about the Julián and the girl. They go on the truck because we ride like that.
Yeah.
We
Right
don't
on the
have
back
to
of the
use
truck.
No.
Yeah.
We don't like to use the belt and go to sit down and be straight like that. No. Everyone's
here.
going the back on the truck. And
Yeah, when I was
Yeah,
a kid,
but-
we did that too. Rode down to my grandpa's garden, which was about 5 blocks long, and he did it all by himself mainly. You know, so
Yeah, but Ruth, they were riding a little pickup on a gravel road. You drive a giant pickup truck and you go like 90 down the interstate. So that's a different story, okay?
oh, believe me, in our town,
Yeah.
we don't care. We go, boom. And what's the fun thing?
Yeah.
Yep.
You know, like, we don't care.
Yeah.
And we have, like, all the earth in our face.
Yeah, the dirt and the dust. Yeah.
That's that fun time back. You know, that's what you miss when you come to United States, and then like
All these
you know,
rules.
all the rules, and
Yes.
everything. Then he goes back. You know, I just enjoy the fact that he got an opportunity to go back home.
Yeah.
And to spend his time there. That was one of the most highlighted things in this video. One of them, you know. The end was pretty strong too, you know.
Yeah. And we're just about there.
You don't know how to, my sisters and I, we ride on the truck, and my dad was driving, and we go like from here to 2 hours away.
Yeah.
And my dad drive like crazy, drove like crazy. And we are on the top and we get chairs
Yeah.
to hide on the top, and we feel like that's the arrow.
Yeah.
And everyone's want the corners.
Yeah.
No one's want to be on the middle of the truck.
That's interesting. That's fun. Probably the coolest part, or one of my favorite parts of this film, comes from something that I didn't fully realize until after I watched this and did a little bit of reading. The director said that as a kid, she hardly really knew her grandfather, despite seeing him every month on his trips that he took. She had trouble understanding his rural Mexican Spanish, his small town habits, his personal values and things like that. But in making the film, she was allowed to get closer to him. He was very welcoming to her, despite their differences. He welcomed her into his life, willingly showed her around Durango and answered all her questions, told the stories about the Castillo mountain where the witches go and turn into blackbirds, which was really a fun story.
Believe me, those are everywhere in Mexico.
Yeah. Do you guys know? You know one, Valeska?
They said that if you were pregnant and you looked at the full moon, the moon will eat the baby.
Oh.
And you know when is that eat the baby?
What?
When the babies have that like they have a
like a cleft lip,
like clover or something in their eyes, something on the finger.
Yeah.
and we said, we told you.
Oh, so if the baby has any sort of deformity, you would say, well, I told you not to look at the moon.
Yeah.
Yes.
No fables, the most excuses,
that
we used to have
rough.
back in our days too, as kids.
Yeah.
But like, if you go back to the documentary,
Yep.
they don't know why the Julián's wife
Passed
died.
away, yeah.
Why? We don't have the doctors like we have here.
Right.
We don't have the specialists. We don't have all that stuff.
All you know is
We are
that she
only
got
guessing.
sick. Yeah, she
We
got
are
sick and she died. Yeah, so and that's all you really know.
like they say they found the cactus and her bed, and then her stomach got growing.
Right.
I'm guessing was the witch. Why?
Oh yeah. It was probably just the witch that turned into a blackbird, or she went up to the Castillo during the nighttime, or during the daytime and woke them up, right? Because wasn't that what they said? You never climb that mountain during the daytime because that's when the witches are asleep, and if you wake them up, then they'll get mad and you'll have bad luck or something like that. Maybe she climbed the mountain.
And
Who
how do
knows?
we raise? All those histories, and they
little stories.
those stories are in your mind, and you grow up like that, and you are
You're afraid.
of everyone. So you.
So, Valeska, are you afraid of looking at the moon now? Full moon?
No, I'm not pregnant.
Oh, well, that's good. You better not
That's
be.
a good answer. That's a good answer. Good answer.
That is a good answer. Yeah.
And how about La Llorona, Valeska?
Oh, La Llorona, that's a whole different story.
Oh.
No.
Hold on. What's it called? La Llorona.
La Llorona.
I just listened to another podcast about La Llorona.
Llorona.
Llorona. That's a pretty nasty tale. Do you care to talk about it at all?
Yes.
Go for it.
It's about a lady, and she had 2 sons, right?
I don't know how many, but she has some.
On some of the stories, it was 2 sons. And she drowned them or killed them in a lake or something.
On the river.
And she would go around as a ghost or whatever.
Yep.
And go around and find children. And she would try to find her children.
Yep.
And she would say, "Mis hijos!" And she would yell that
Every night.
every night, looking for little kids to see if she could find her children.
And that was basically a way for parents to tell kids, stay in the house and and behave, probably, right?
I don't know. Some people, they say they saw her. I never saw her.
Apparently.
Yeah.
Apparently, but
In a white dress.
Those are all those stories are all designed. We can go down in the park at a certain time because this certain
Boogeyman.
guy he's going to get you.
Yep.
And then everybody, what? No, what? So we never went down there.
Yep.
So I kind of like those fables. You know, it's a good way of
Yeah.
tricking a kid into not doing something.
Yeah. Well, never mind.
Yeah, okay.
So one last thing before we kind of get toward the end of the documentary. I noticed something, James, and you'll like this one. I noticed one little thing in this, a recurring thing in this film that reminded me of a documentary that we watched called Winnebago Man.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Oh my God.
Have you seen Winnebago Man, Ruth?
It's a little bit.
Do you remember what made the Winnebago angry and what also made Julián angry?
I can't remember right now.
It was those summer bucking flies.
Some butterflies, yeah. No flies that were little prophets.
Yeah, the little prophet flies.
Flies.
Those
He was swatting
bastards.
them all over.
Yeah, those bastards. Yeah.
He got a couple of them too.
So we covered a documentary called The Winnebago Man, and he cusses at the flies a lot. So I thought that was kind of a funny callback.
Yes.
So let's finish up the same way that the documentary finished up and talk about the speedy decline of Julián as the film drew to a close. He starts to talk about how it's harder and harder to keep food down. He talks about his stomach and his back are almost always hurting. They do a lot of scenes that are zoomed in on his face when he's just sitting there. In one scene, he was actually dry shaving, which if you're a man and you've shaved and you've dry shaved, that can be very difficult on your skin. So that probably means he has some leather on his face. The years of sun and all that.
Well, I ain't gonna go there now because I can dry shave any time of the day.
Yes, my dad too.
Straight
That
shave
bring me
lotion. Yes.
that brought me a lot of memories from my dad.
Yeah.
The small
Little mirror and dry shaving.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. But you can see in all these scenes, almost 90 years. I mean, he was 89 years old. Almost 90 years of stories.
Right.
Of pain, of success, of memories, of family, of love, of heartache. These things are flitting around in his brain, and you can see that. He's not speaking it, but you could see it. And it always looks like he's deep in thought. Mm-hmm. Same way with his son, George. You can tell that there's things going on in his brain. And is that a pretty typical, and I think I know the answer to this, but is that a pretty typical thing for a Mexican man to keep his thoughts to himself?
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of stories, a lot of things, but just kind of keeping that in. Is that your experience?
Yes. And again, I'm talking about my dad because when my dad passed away and, the problems we have right now, but the stuff we have in Mexico. So two of my sisters, they looking for money and his ropero and stuff. And they found it since years ago, he has the cancer, the skin cancer.
I never talked about
And
it.
he never talked. We never find out until he's getting old.
Wow.
And
That's
that one
heavy.
was worse, and we can do anything.
Yeah. And that's pretty typical, I think, to not want to admit the pain and admit the struggle and that sort of thing. And it really made.
And I can't believe we don't notice.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you spend your life holding those things in and not talking about them, then you get good at hiding those things, I think,
It's more like he's just like, this stuff happens in life. Mm-hmm. Things go on.
Yeah.
I just can't let this stop me. I got to keep moving forward.
Yep.
And that's basically how people.
Yeah. And it made for a very somber ending to this documentary.
No, we know my dad was for the son because he was like Julián.
Yeah.
He was working on the avocado acres. He was on the peaches acres, on the corn. We grew up with all that, like a farm.
Right.
And he liked to sleep under the trees all the time on the sun. And
So-
he was like, why, like me?
Yeah.
Like.
Yep. That'll do some damage to you. And apparently it
And
did.
it was early, really. I don't know which age, but he passed away and when he was 74 years old.
Wow.
So was like
Yeah.
maybe 50, I
Yep.
guess.
Wow.
I don't know.
Yeah. This made for a very, touching and somber and emotional end to this documentary. We see him on his deathbed kind of quickly. So the last, maybe half an hour of the movie covered several years. And we see his entire family, kids and all, around his bed saying a prayer. And he looks like maybe he lost his teeth because his mouth is a little sunk in. And, he's very obviously not feeling well. He's quiet. His eyes are closed. His breathing is very labored. The kids are in tears. This man is loved. There is a love in this room that you can feel. And I really hope that he felt that in his final hours as well. His breathing is labored. His daughter and granddaughter are there. In another scene, she kind of crawls into bed with him and is telling him, we're all here. George is in his bed on the other side of the room. And they're telling him that they love him. And George is kind of laying there, contemplating, listening. And you're hearing this labored breathing, and then it just stops.
Right.
And the story of Julián Moreno comes to an end. The house is not quite finished yet, but it's close. The kitchen is a little bit unfurnished. The TV that he had bought is still in the box laying on the bed, but the house is beautiful, but it's empty. And George gets up and he just sort of walks out of the room, and that's sort of what you were talking about, James, like in just this, I know he just passed away and life's about to get a lot
You don't
different.
need to see that, so because he
knows.
feel it and he knows.
Yeah. And, and that's, they show the house that he's been working on in the state that it's in, and it's empty, and the credits roll. The movie's over. And to me, that is such a sad way, a powerful way to end the story, because you're left going, I wanted to see kids in the house that he built. I wanted to see families living there, but that's a fairy tale. I don't know that that's reality. If Ruth, if your father had built a house and it was sitting down there, you still have your life here. You're not just necessarily not able to just uproot it and go live his dream down there, but you start feeling those things for these people in this film. And, to see the house empty and unfinished was sad. Do you agree?
Yes. But if you remember when he was talking with those guys,
Yeah.
he was sure he don't be done or he don't be finished that house. Because he told them, I don't have enough time.
Yeah. Yep.
I think I can finish that.
Yeah.
And they asked him why. And he said, because I don't have time.
Yeah. He knew.
He knew it. And
You always know.
that made me so sad.
Me too.
Since there.
Valeska, when this was over, how were you feeling?
I cried.
Yeah.
And she never cried.
Oh.
It was something.
So what was going through your head? Like, what about it made you cry? What were the feelings?
When I saw him in the bed, it reminded me of my grandma and how she was in the bed there, like when she was dying at points. And at the end, when the song came up that he was singing, it reminded me of that.
Oh,
too.
the Dove song. Yeah. How about you, Ruth? What were you feeling when this ended?
I feel sad. And she said, you're going to cry.
Yeah.
I don't cry.
But you cried.
I cry here.
Yeah.
But I don't cry in the end. And she said, why you don't cry? Be honest, I don't know why I don't cry, because I was sad.
Yep.
Since I told you Since he say, I don't have time,
Yeah.
since I was sad since there.
Yeah.
And when the ladies say he don't feel, sometimes he's up, sometimes down, but like you say, I notice in his face, he don't feel good anymore.
Yep.
But I don't understand why I don't cry
And that's okay.
until now.
It all hits at different times and
Yeah.
in different spots, and yeah.
But there's, remember my dad all the time. All the time.
Yeah.
How do we have a house in Mexico? How do we live over there? How do he
Yeah.
was with us?
What about you, James? How were you feeling?
Well, I felt kind of, I felt little taken away from this one because at the end, I wanted him to finish that house. I wanted to see the people in the house.
Yep.
But then it hit home too. If you think about it, life.
Mm-hmm.
That's life. The whole thing was just straight up unfiltered life, should I say.
Yeah.
That's basically what it was. Sometimes we do things in life, and we got a goal set, and we don't get to finish them,
Yep.
But life goes on, and basically,
And I think
that's what
everyone
it is. It was pretty
left
intense.
like that, and they don't.
Yeah. Yeah. And in his culture too, he has the benefit of having a family that very much loved him and will probably continue to honor him. This film, the fact that the four of us are sitting here and the listeners that are listening to this are talking about him,
Yeah.
his memory is alive. Not everybody gets that. So I think that's a huge honor.
Yes, that's a good thing for everyone's looking this
Right.
documentary. Why? Because, like you say, that's a good learn
Yep.
for our whatever past.
Yep.
We need to have them in our memories, and they never die,
Right.
and
Right.
they
And
never
he's-
gone.
Right.
He was surrounded.
He was.
Yeah.
Remember when he was like, people die, they don't have nobody, they just get buried.
Yep.
And
Yes.
that's one of the things he did not want.
Right. And that's not what he got either, which I'm happy that
I am
was.
too.
For me, after it ended, I was sad, I was moved, but I was also a little bit inspired because I feel like we watched the ending of a long, meaningful life. It was filled with important things, family, love, hard work, which to me was sort of the underlying, I don't know if you want to say moral of the story. To me, the heartbeat was the hard work. There was even a scene where he was joking with his daughter and his granddaughter because his daughter went out and started pulling weeds in the yard and was like, I just need to work. It would look better. And then he teases his granddaughter, said, how come you're not there helping? And she's like, I am working. I'm filming. And he's like, oh, that's a different kind of work where you don't really have to work, but it sort of gave the, a little bit of a glimpse into what, that work ethic, that hard work, like set the camera down and go help pull weeds, Now, obviously they were joking with each other and he was fine, but you also witnessed the end of his pain, and the death of his spouse hit him hard. The migrating of his children away from home, that hit him hard.
That's one thing. Maybe we are in the end, but right now it's coming in my mind. Like all the time, he say he has pain in his stomach,
Yeah.
and like I told you, where is the doctors? Like we don't have.
You have someone rubbing oils on his stomach.
Same thing.
And that's about it.
That's what it is.
That's all.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. And
I
who
told you, like the
knows?
wish things,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
for that'll be help.
Yep.
No, what is inside?
Yeah. What's going on? But thankfully he did. I mean, he lasted 89 years.
89 years.
It's a pretty good run for a healthy person.
Yes,
And
and walking.
Still
Yeah.
carrying planks and doing all
Yes,
kinds of stuff.
and walking, eating, and doing all
Cooking eggs.
his personal stuff.
Oh, I reminded of the 100 Door story.
Oh yeah. So there was a couple spots in the documentary that I didn't really understand that well. I kind of questioned why they were in there. The 100-door story was one as well. It was a fun story. Do you want to tell it?
It was about a lady that told his, I don't know, his boyfriend or whatever they were, that she would love him and get married to him if he built her a house with 100 doors.
Yep.
And he did, because he loved her.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah,
every time Julián told that story, he smiled.
Yeah. And because he's working on building his house, quote unquote, with 100 doors.
Because he loved them.
I like those stories that pass down from generations and can be retold. And there's, who knows if that was a true story. In my mind, I go, who's this woman that's making me build a house with 100 doors in order for her to love me? Why is that conditional on that? If
that happens.
Yeah, well, not in my life.
You get one door.
Yeah.
Keep talking, you get the back door.
No, I want 100 because if I can live only in one, so I have another 99.
Right. Yeah, I can leave. I can leave whenever I want.
Yes.
But as Julián's life ends, ultimately that's the way that we all want to go. A nice long life full of family and love and things to be proud of. But it's still incredibly hard to watch. It's hard to hear those last breaths. It's hard to know that they were in pain. And it's a scary thing sometimes to consider those sort of things.
Right.
Overall, I think this was a very nice documentary. I think it was very well made. It did lack a little bit of content in the storytelling, in my opinion, only because some of the best facts that I heard were when I read her story afterwards. We didn't get a lot about the braceros. We didn't get a lot about, the reason she wanted to make this documentary. We didn't get a lot about how well she knew her grandfather, beforehand. But knowing those things really added to the story to me. And I'm not sure how they would have added that in to the documentary. I don't know. I do like to get the full story from a film. So if I had a criticism about this one, it would be that they spent a lot of time in quiet, which was good, but they also could have maybe used some of that to add a little bit of backstory and whatnot. It's just a small criticism, but nothing that takes away of.
Yeah, maybe, if they do how do they make some movies back and forth?
Yeah.
So maybe people can understand better. Like people like you guys.
Yep.
Like, because for me it was
perfect.
But
Yeah. But you have the history. You have those same type of experiences, and that,
yes.
Where for me, I need a little more to understand.
Yes.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. No, that's a good point. Yeah.
I just want to know what you mean by you guys. No, I'm just kidding. I'm gonna say you Americans.
No, Americans, Valeska too, because even
children, kids,
the kids, they need to know
history.
Well, yes,
that's it.
Where
true.
Their parents come from,
ancestors.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yep.
It gives them purpose, even more purpose when you know.
Why? Because when they get here and they don't see how do the parents live in their country,
right,
without all that technology, without and they grow up here with everything, they don't appreciate everything, like everything they have,
right,
is thanks for what they parents raise.
Right. Valeska, do you feel like it was helpful for you to see this in this documentary? Do you feel like, you strike me as the kind of person who, you've already mentioned how much you appreciate the work and the things like that. But do you feel like it was helpful at all to you to see this film and this world and this type of story?
Well, yeah, it gave me more background information, and it made me see how much different it is for them over there, where they have less technology and have to do their stuff with their hands.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
I think it just opened your eyes to feeling because sometimes you hear a story, like we was saying all these stories.
Yeah.
But then when you see it, they kind of filled all those blanks in visually.
Yeah.
Yes, when we try to talk to her and say stories about us, how do we grow up, how do that, she started laughing and laughing. And I said,
I mean, it's silly.
Yeah,
You see?
it sounds silly, and then you have sort of a visual aid in a film like this to put the image to the words.
Right.
to the
you know what
story.
did she say when we say we're gonna take you to Mexico? She said, I don't wanna go to your poor Mexico.
That's not true. She's a liar.
No, that's true.
That's not
You
true.
say a few times.
That was back in my days when
Yes,
I was not
long
mature.
time ago.
yeah,
When she was children, of
learned
course.
Back
but
when she was a kid,
still,
yeah.
you know. But it's still, she say, I don't want to go to Mexico.
Get a
Yeah.
joke. Get a
When I
joke.
tell my nephews the same stories about us eating squirrel, rabbit, and all that stuff, they just be like, mm-hmm.
Yeah, no thanks.
Can we throw this like a ram on the barbecue right quick, a grill or what you want to call it?
Yeah, you can't say barbecue.
I can't say barbecue. You know, it's a whole meaning behind that, but we'll get that later on.
What do you guys think was what was the heartbeat? What was the point? What was the intention behind this documentary?
Making me
Valeska.
You're making
Yeah.
me think.
That's right. That's a good thing.
That's not a good thing.
You want to try? You want to give this one a shot? What do you think the intention behind this documentary was?
To open people's eyes more and to show them how life can be in Mexico, and for people
Yeah.
like how they go back and forth.
Anyone else want to add anything to that? What do you think her reasoning for this was?
I say, like you say, is love.
Yep.
A family, family love.
Trying to connect the family.
The families connect there.
Yeah.
Because everyone was there on the end with him.
Well, at the end.
Yep.
That means it's love.
Yep. It's a love story.
I think it's-
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's that too, but I also think that it's also like a diary or something, a journal of his life. It's a memory.
Yes.
Now that memory can never go away because it's on film now.
I agree.
But when you say that, if you think, you go back again to love, because when they do that feel for him, it's like,
Yeah. It's immortalizing not just a man, but a family and a culture and a whole just that family, culture, love. It is a love story. It's a love poem. I feel like, and I hate to put words into Ileana Sosa's mouth here, but I feel like this was made by her for her family. Mm-hmm. And it just so happened that it was able to reach other people like us as well.
yes.
It probably would have been just as meaningful to her if it never left their home. She made the film, they put it on their own TV and they watch it or their computer or whatever, and it's still impactful. Right. I mean, that's the same reason we keep photo albums or pictures on our phones or things like that to remind us of our past, of the things we did, of the love that we had. It triggers memories in us that might not come organically. You go scrolling through, old pictures in an old computer, or if you open up a photo album from your grandmother or something like that, those are things that are bringing back memories and showing into a world that is, either you weren't a part of, but it was a big part of where you came from. So I think that this was important for her and her family, but it also was a really cool look into another person's world, and it was done in a really subtle but beautiful way, in my opinion. Okay, so
yes, like you say, look at what my sister found me.
So she's showing us a picture of couple trucks.
Those are my dart trucks. They are my parents.
Okay.
My sister Malu is with my mom.
Yeah.
And I'm with my dad.
Will you send that to me?
Yes.
I'll put it up on social media if you're okay with that.
No, that's fine.
When we
that's fine. Just because when you say those old pictures, yeah, have an old
Yeah.
picture.
Yeah, I'll
And
put that
if
up.
you guys look, our house in Mexico
Yeah.
this is still the same.
Yeah.
Yes, it's
That's
the
really cool.
concrete, and
Yep.
my dad built the house.
Yeah. With his own hands.
Yes,
Yep. That's
and
really cool.
with his friends, and there are no architects. Okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you guys don't believe that house. That's the 2 floors.
Yep.
But on the second floor we have a big
Okay.
it isn't like concrete. It's like a big wood, like that big but taller. And it's holding the house
Like a big beam kind of thing.
forever.
Oh, yeah, the cross beams that go on the basement floor.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, that's cool.
And I say, and all the time I ask my dad, why do you have that in? What is?
It's holding
is
the house up.
And he said, he's holding the house. And I say, no. And he say, try to take it off and we don't have house anymore. And I say, no, thank you. I believe you.
Yeah. All right. So we have come to the end of our show where we will talk about a rating, an official documentary rating. Each crew member each week scores the documentary on a scale of 1 to 10 items, with 1 being as bad as buying the wrong size planks for the house you're building, and 10 being as great as Pinto drinking water out of a mop bucket. The item it's cute, right?
Yes.
The item that's used for scoring changes each week depending on the content of the documentary that we watched. This week, we will be using, just like Little Pinto, a perro, or is it a perrito?
Perrito.
Perrito. Let's do perritos instead as our rating item. So let's start with Ruth. Ruth, how many perritos do you rate What We Leave Behind?
Oh my God. Why you ask me that? I have my 3 babies.
Dog, what?
No, what's the rating?
What's your rating for the documentary?
The rating,
Yep.
I love it. 10. Let
10
me tell you why.
perritos,
Because
yep.
the perrito, the pinto, and I just brought the packet when it's something you guys need to know.
Okay.
When the waters come out over there in Mexico, come out from the hose, it's like cold, like
Oh, yeah.
cold. It's the best water
It's
ever.
like well water.
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
it's yes, that's a wild water, and it's cold, and it's so good. So it's the reason Pinto do that.
Okay. So 10 perritos from Ruth. Valeska.
9 perritos.
9 perritos.
11.
19.
James, how
I
many
gave 7.
perritos? Okay.
7 people. I really liked it. You know,
Yep.
I might even give me a dog.
Jeff,
I gave this documentary 6 perritos. And I kind of feel like maybe that's a little low, but I already landed on that. The only thing that like I said, without a little backstory, it wouldn't have been as impactful for me, but it was really well done and a nice look into that culture and to that family. So 6 perritos. So after averaging everyone's scores, the official documentary rating for What We Leave Behind is 8 perritos. I want to thank all our listeners. No, that's pretty good. I want to thank everybody for tuning in this week. Special gracias to Ruth and Valeska for joining us for this episode. You guys are the best. We like hanging out with you. As always, thanks, Mr. King James.
well, we miss the wine.
I like to say.
Next time, bring the wine, you said?
I like to say thank you to the Hispanic people that come in America, and that all the things that they bring, the cultures, the food, and everything that they bring. I really enjoy a lot of it. So thank you for that.
Yes. I want all of you to know that if you build me a house, I will come live in it. So, Valeska, start working on building a house for me.
She can design a house.
You know, that's gonna be a good idea because Jeff, he's the taller over here.
Don't bring ideas in.
No, let me talk. Jeff is the taller over here, so he can help us to build taller.
To put the top
Yes.
of the wall on? Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, there we go.
Oh, those are heavy.
I know.
You put it like in the documentary,
Mm-hmm.
and you put it one by one. I did that.
Yeah.
And so it's the reason I give 10,
Yeah.
because
It's a lot of work.
everything is a lot of work.
But you didn't hear any complaining either.
No.
No.
That's right. Surprisingly, I
was
complain
nice.
a lot myself,
Yeah, you do.
I do complain a lot, but, I still get my work in, you know what I'm saying?
All right. So happy Hispanic Heritage Month, everyone. Let's talk about next week's episode. For next week, we will be jumping into our station wagons, grabbing our rain ponchos and our video cameras, and heading out into the fields to try to capture footage of some of the biggest storms around. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to be watching a documentary called The Storm Chasing Anthology. This documentary is dedicated to chronicling 6 decades of storm chasing culture, told through the words and images of storm chasers and meteorologists alike. This is our buddy Matt's forte, so this was his choice, so he will be joining us next week. Should be a good one. Anyone ever heard of The Storm Chasing Anthology?
No.
Never heard of it, but I used to watch some shows, where they would run around. I mean, it's exciting.
I would
race
love
down
to
and-
watch it now.
Yeah.
I'm fan now of Jeff.
Yeah.
For
did a movie
everything
called
you do,
Tornado.
that's amazing.
Do you remember that?
Thank you for inviting us.
Oh, you're very welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you.
Valeska, you can tell your friends you're on a national, worldwide podcast.
I'll
now.
be famous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So
And you can tell them, like,
I don't want them to listen. No, that's embarrassing.
no, it's not. No, it's a good thing.
you can tell them your experience and how do you feel and everything. So we never know. Maybe we have more over here
That'd
from
be awesome.
your age.
That's
I
right.
can
You know,
bring them.
because everyone's want to listen. Everyone.
That's true.
I don't know. I guess.
So, everyone out there, go listen or check out the documentary, The Storm Chasing Anthology, before next week's episode. It can be found on YouTube. So next week, join us as we go out, tie ourselves to a tree, and hope not to get shredded by a tornado, one documentary at a time. Please go out, rate and review our podcast on your favorite podcast streaming service, and let us know what you think of our show. If you want to connect to our crew, look for @Talkumentary Podcast on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, or you can shoot us an email at info.talkumentary@gmail.com. On behalf of Ruth, Valeska, King James, DJ in the post-production booth, and the entire Talkumentary family, I am your host, Jeff Kolaski, and I want to thank you all for listening. I hope you keep your minds open and be kind to each other. Buenos noches.
Adios.
Valeska, thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye, Ruth.
Adios, Jeff.
Adios.
Adios, everyone.
Buenos noches.
Buenas noches, everyone.
King James. What's king in Spanish? Jefe?
Rey.
Rey. El Rey.
Rey James.
That's
Rey
why.
James.
El
That's,
Rey Tigre.
that's Tigre El Rey. My name is Jeffrey, Jeffrey. So Rey. I'm King Jeff.
Okay, King Jeff. Just for a little bit, you can have that title, you guys.
All right.
All right.
That was fun.
Yes, it was.